What you described the word. Word did you use to describe the vaccine? You don't believe it's real, sir?
No, it's not a vaccine. It's an experimental shot. Now, the FDA was forced to authorize it here recently, but they were jabbing people with an experimental shot right up until that fake authorization. I work with dedicated medical professionals, scientists and biologists and virologists, and there's an army, thousands, tens of thousands of professional health masters who call it an experimental shot, and you shouldn't get it if you don't want to get it. I don't believe it's a vaccine. Most of America doesn't believe it's a vaccine. The only ones that are taking it are either gullible or being forced because they're going to lose their job and lose their life and lose their livelihood. This is a tragic time in America. It's an experimental shot, and if you try to give it to me, I'll experiment on you.
Well, would you speak to the people who believe it is a worthwhile vaccine and it is saving lives? Are they just dead wrong? Are they been fed a line from the federal government?
Tim, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the people that went ahead and got the jab. I speak their language. I would speak to them thusly. Bah, 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 bah. They understand that.
Well, so all these millions of people that got the shots, they're just stupid?
Yep.
Well, some might say the same thing about your position of being against the vaccine.
Believe me, they do. And believe me, Tim, I got some buddies. I've got family who took it because of the overwhelming pressure and the propaganda pounding and the fear that has been cultivated by this out-of-control, treasonous government. And Jim can call this rhetoric, but this is the pulse of thinking, critical thinking America. And critical thinking people around the world. The evidence that supports every word I speak outweighs the evidence that you're alluding to. So I'm not alone here. This isn't radical stuff. This is critical thinking based on science, based on medical professionals who are very dedicated, and I take their advice. It's an experimental shot. Don't come near me with your needle.
Mr. Malin.
Yeah, so Mr. Nugent, I listened to a podcast of virologists who say that getting the vaccine has saved millions of lives. Would you disagree with that?
Well, let me ask you, it's Kyle, right?
It is, sir.
Yeah, Kyle. So do you believe that over 680,000 Americans have died from the Wuhan weaponized virus? Or do you know that of those 680,000 claimed that there's health professionals and I forget the actual bureaucratic title, that have come forward and said, this guy died of cancer, this guy died of heart disease, this guy got stabbed to death, and they were forced to write that they died of COVID-19. Tell me you've seen these people testify to that. I dismiss anything from any of the bureaucracy.
Report.
All the alphabet.
I've also heard reports from virologists who say that. I've also heard reports from virologists who say that the vaccine has saved lives. Would you concur that that the vaccine has saved lives?
I would concur in some instances where those professionals who are not browbeat into succumbing to the propaganda ministry. And again, we can discuss who's been saved and who's not been saved. If someone chooses to take it and they get proper professional medical advice, I give them all my respect. It's always about choice. And you shouldn't have your business shut down because you refuse to let someone put some medicine into your body that you don't believe in. Are you with me on that at least?
So you basically said